All right, welcome back to the show. My name is David Scales for Surf Splendor, and I'm excited to bring you another live show. We recorded this one last week in Jacksonville Beach, Florida. This one was at the Blue Jay Listening Room. It's a music venue and bar, perfect for a live podcast. If you're ever in Jacksonville, they do music 6 nights a week. But what's so great about these live shows, obviously, is going out in the community, interacting with listeners who we have been communicating with, some of whom up to a decade now. But also dudes like Ricky Carroll. Ricky Carroll's name probably isn't a household name, but he is iconic in this area. He's been shaping for 52 years, the longest running surfboard shaper in Florida. In fact, he's been entered into the East Coast Surfing Hall of Fame. Total legend in that area. Justin Quintal, Ricky shapes boards for Justin Quintal. Justin, you may know his surfboard label is Black Rose. Those are all built by Ricky Carroll. Ricky also has the license for a who's who of other board builders who want their boards to be built on the East Coast and then distributed locally. So we'll get into that stuff with Ricky, but Justin Quintal, he is a longboard world champ. He is an 11-time Duct Tape Invitational winner. He's a 5-time U.S. Open winner. He also holds a world record for catching the largest yellowmouth grouper ever. So we'll discuss that in today's show. Of course, these shows would not be possible without our industry partners. They also stepped up to give away merch at these live shows. So when people come out, they get to benefit from all that stuff too. So let's acknowledge realwatersports.com for any and all of your retail needs, including surfboard purchases. And then if you ever need a new watch, go to vayerwatches.com/surfsplendor. We'll save you 15% off an American assembled waterproof guaranteed timepiece. And then the best fins on the market for surfboards, surfnvs.com. And then lastly, the Surf Rider Foundation. They are doing incredible work to help preserve and clean up our oceans. I don't know what's more noble than that. Without ocean health, humanity would cease to exist. So surfrider.org, because the ocean needs more friends. Okay. Thank you, Jacksonville Beach, Florida, and the Blue Jay Listening Room for graciously hosting us. It was great to meet everybody. My name is David Scales for Surf Splendor, and I hope that you enjoy this chat with Justin Quintal and Ricky Carroll, along with my co-host, Chaz Smith.
Surf Splendor.
Okay, BlueJayJacks.com. So everybody lives nearby. Any night of the week you want something to do and you don't have anything to do, Blue Jay Listening Room. There you go. But yeah, no joke. So I've come through Jacksonville Beach before. My name is David Scales. I have a podcast called Surf Splendor and a couple of other podcasts that we co-host. And as I've come through to interview people, I've gotten to know these little surf communities around the world. And in Southern California, everybody comes through Southern California at some point in the surf industry. And so I interview a lot of people there, but as I've gotten out to see other communities, I've fallen in love with different communities. And so recorded an interview with Ricky Carroll back in May 2019, I think it was. So that was 6 years ago. Done one with Mike Wisnant, came out and visited his factory at some point. And my effort with what we're doing with this live tour is to come and just learn about the communities from the people who created the surf culture in these communities. So again, thank you for incorporating us and welcoming us.
Thank you.
Yep. Ow. There's really no need for introduction to the two people who are going to be joining us on stage. Ricky Carroll, do you mind getting up and joining us? Round of applause for Ricky Carroll. Ricky Carroll was... even though I said he needs no introduction, Ricky was inducted into the East Coast Surfing Hall of Fame this past year, 2024, I believe. January, yeah?
Congratulations.
Congrats on that. I feel like you've been, as a shaper, been manufacturing surfboards longer than anybody in Florida at this point consecutively. Is that true or not?
No, there's a few guys still at it.
Get right up on the mic if you don't mind, like right up on it. All right, who's going longer than you?
Let me see, who's longer than me?
Maybe Nomad Surf Shop before you, Ron, was...
well,
the
yeah,
first
but
to
Ron's
start it.
not shaping anymore, so he's passed away. As far he's talking about
Right.
people still shaping before me. Rich Price is only shaping kind of part-time. He has Parkinson's, so he's having a hard time completing boards. It's kind of sad, but God, I can't think of anybody.
Like
you
I
might
said,
be right.
Ricky, Carroll, ladies and gentlemen.
How many boards have you shaped, Ricky, at this point?
I hear that question all the time, and I don't know. It was probably about 10 years ago where I started looking into how many boards I actually shaped. And when I worked for Natural Art, I started when I was like 19 years old, and there was a time when we had 4 or 5 shapers. We were doing 4,000 to 5,000 boards a year. So each shaper was doing 1,000 boards a year in a 10-year period. That's 10,000 boards. But as time went on, it just became Rich Price and myself, and we were still doing 4,000 boards a year. So we were each doing 2,000 boards a year, each.
Right.
And that adds up to 20,000 boards in 10 years.
And a lot of those were hand shapes and
Oh yeah,
to
all
put
hand
things in perspective
shapes.
for me, we did 1,000 JQ models, which I
Right.
thought was pretty cool, and then we've done close to 2,000 Black Roses. That's like my whole surf career. And that's 3,000 boards, and you were
Right.
doing 4,000 a year. That's pretty
Right.
insane.
So as I did the math, back then I was just about at 50,000 boards 10 years ago.
10 years ago. Okay.
So 100,000 boards.
Not
is what
quite.
you just
I would
said.
say since then to
Infinity.
now, I shaped a lot less than I did. I mean, there was times when I was working at Natural Art, it was going in the morning and do 10, 15 boards nonstop, take a break for lunch, and just power shaping.
And a lot of those were glass on fins and
glass
channels.
on fins,
and
channels, you name it.
We're going to be doing some trivia tonight. There's a couple of details I'll leave out about exact numbers of things because I'm going to quiz you guys. So get ready. Keep your phones away. Don't cheat. But we will be asking the audience, and you can just shout out your answers, and we'll just kind of try to play the fairest we can. Justin Quintal also needs no introduction. He has multiple Duct Tape Invitational titles.
Wait, though, you told me.
Multiple.
Is it 7?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Is it
Don't
I'm sorry.
say,
I'm
don't
sorry.
say.
7.
Don't say.
7-ish.
Don't say.
7 plus.
World title, U.S. Open titles. I feel like maybe the most winning longboarder of all time. I hate to take anything away from Joel, but if you add up all those titles, maybe the most winning.
Absolutely.
I don't know.
Take it away from
Joel.
Joel.
Joel actually has a crazy record. The thing I was mostly trying to get him on is he won the U.S. Open 6 times in a row. And I was trying to break that record because I was like the most all right, direct thing where I'm like, all right, son of a bitch, I got you on this thing. And I won 5 in a row. But he was like, hey, we tied because one of them was his contest. I don't consider us tying. I consider him beating me on that. But that's the closest to his record that I've gotten.
He has more Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world titles than you do.
Yeah, so that accounts for something. But I have a
got-
world record grouper, so
Boom.
I don't know if he could do that.
Equals it out. Joel, shots fired.
We got to get him out on the boat with Captain Chris, who's in the crowd.
Can everybody hear everybody's mics good enough in the back? Thumbs up? Okay, good. Cool, thank you. All right, we'll get into those details in a little bit. How'd you guys meet?
So I think he saw me surfing at regionals one year when I was like 12 or 13. I was just moving to Jacksonville, and I was starting to ride for Sunrise Surf Shop. And I'd been riding for this guy, John Tolley, for a long time out of South Carolina. And moving here, riding for Sunrise, he was interested in sponsoring me and kind of talked to Dan, the owner of Sunrise, and I'll let him take it from there.
I have a story about that. It wasn't the regionals, but that's where I first saw
That's where
you.
we
But
met.
after I started shaping boards for him, we were at an NSSA East Coast Championships, Sebastian. Dad and Mom were standing there, a couple other people, and I said, "That kid's going to be a world champion one day."
Hell yeah. Sick.
What was it about him?
Just
7
watching him
plus.
surf, he had just there wasn't anybody remotely close to him in the water.
Well, those are the introductions for 3 of us on stage. Do either of you know Chaz Smith, or what is your introduction to Chaz Smith? What is your
Uh-oh.
What do you know of Chaz Smith?
I don't know. Would you like to give us an introduction to yourself?
I'd be before he starts. I'd be curious what your.
I do not know, Chad.
Oh, okay.
Great.
I know
Thank
you and
you.
Ashton got
Thank
into
you.
it at Surf Expo one year, but no,
You don't know before that?
I've
You
been a
don't know
big
the
fan of a lot of the stuff that you've put out. It's interesting to read, and as far as surf journalism goes,
It's real
I
rude
feel like
stuff.
there's a, like you said, it's hard surf candy, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Ultra
hard.
Yeah.
Chaz Smith wrote a book, 2013.
Welcome to Paradise?
Welcome to Paradise.
What year are we?
2025.
I think it was actually came out in 2013. I think you're right. Yeah.
I know.
So Welcome to
Ray-
Paradise, Now Go to Hell is the book that we're referencing, which was kind of a tawdry reflection on time spent on the North Shore, pulling back the curtain, I guess, on a lot of things that had not been discussed in surf media prior. Surf media, as it existed, kind of legacy media, surf magazines, was funded by a lot of surf brands, and so you weren't really able to tell the stories of what was really happening because the brands had interest to protect. Chaz was not operating under that model, so he wrote a book about people getting punched out, drug deals, stuff like that, and I think it was popular.
It's still in print somehow.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
I know
yeah.
Ray Pimentel, who's here. He's a local legend.
Right.
He said that's one of his favorite books he's ever read.
Which
so that's huge.
it
If
makes
Ray approves, I approve. That's
it
gotta
makes
read
the only makes it worth writing that book for Ray.
Yeah.
Ray.
So Chaz had also been writing articles for a couple of surf publications. One of them was Stab Magazine, which was it was founded by two dudes, Derek Riley and Sam McIntosh. They split. After that split, Derek and Chaz partnered up and started Beach Grit, which is beachgrit.com. So Chaz has continued to write books. He's also continued to publish on beachgrit.com. It's the TMZ of surfing.
Yeah.
Is that a fair assessment?
I mean, I think a lesser version of TMZ, to be honest. Yeah, a cheaper
for whatever
version.
that is, if that's a good thing or a bad thing, I'm not sure.
Just is what it is.
And then we started podcasting, I don't know, 8 years ago or something. So we co-host a podcast, and that's why we're here. So to get into the show, I feel like we should incorporate the audience into the event. So I've got a bunch of giveaways from our sponsors. So I'm going to throw out a trivia question for you guys, and this will educate you about our two guests here up on stage and allow you to win some prizes. So the first trivia, you get to pick between a Veyer watch, which Chaz and I are both wearing, or fins, a set of fins from NVS Fins. And again, if you know the answer, shout it out. You have to identify.
I got it.
Who is the first person who shouts out the correct answer to this
Got it.
question? Quote, when Ricky Carroll was 13, he had a neighbor who shaped surfboards in their garage, which inspired Ricky to shape his first surfboard. What was the name of that shaper? No. 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 Whoa. So Carroll, Ricky's wife, was the first one. Who is the second person?
Terry.
What's your name? Terry. Congratulations.
Terry.
Rick, first of all, do you want a set of fins or do you want a wristwatch? Okay.
It's a phenomenal watch.
This
I
is
gotta
being
say.
published on the podcast feed. So for the record, VeyerWatches.com/surfsplendor for 15% off your American Assembled waterproof guaranteed timepiece. They also outfit the entire North Shore Lifeguard Association, which is incredible. Luke Shepherdson, Eddie winner, he wears the Veyer. Same one you're wearing. Runs on solar power. Anyways, Ricky, who was this? And give us the backstory.
Yeah, so when I was a kid, we moved to Florida when I was 10 years old. And my mom bought a surfboard. I have four siblings, an older brother, younger brother, and a younger sister. So she bought a surfboard at a garage sale for $10. We all shared the surfboard. My younger brother didn't take to it too much. My sister was kind of small, so my older brother kind of took it over. So I had to always wait when he was done riding the board, and I could go finally ride it. So I would ride my bike back and forth to the beach, and Marianne's house was on the street that I would ride down, the street that I live on today. And she would shape boards and make boards in her carport. And I would ride by and look, and it's like, what's going on there? And so one day I decided to stop. I stopped, I sat there and watched her shape a whole board. Started talking to her. I was like, I can do that. So one day I'm up at the beach waiting for my brother to come in, after the wind comes on shore and it's too high tide and the waves suck, then I finally can get the board and go out. And there's this old longboard sitting in the trash can. The nose of it's just sticking out. It's broken in half. And it's like, I'm going to take that home. Ripped the nose off, and I took it home, stripped all the glass off of it, and shaped my very first surfboard when I was 13.
What was it?
Did I shape?
Yeah.
Kind of like just took the nose of the longboard, just made a round tail, so it was almost like a double ender.
What were the dimensions?
Oh.
What was the volume on that thing?
The volume. We could talk all night about the volume of that surfboard.
That's debatable. Right?
What else can you tell us about Mary Ann Hayes?
So she made her own boards, she made her own bikinis, she made her own board shorts. She was such a talented person. She took me and my friend to Sebastian for the very first time. Sebastian went and surf. She took us to RC's. A lot of people think RC's is named after me. It's not.
I always thought it was. But.
So was a royal castle there. That's what it got its name. So she took me there one time, and it's like, this is kind of a secret spot. Don't tell your friends. The funny thing about it is it's right at the end of the street of Satellite High School, where we all went to high school. Everybody knew about it,
Yeah.
but nobody knew it was called RC's. And so she just kind of took us under her wing and kind of showed us what was going on. I had no idea what the surf industry was at that time when I was 13, 14 years old. It's
Right.
like this was just out of necessity to make a surfboard so I could go out and surf more.
She's maybe everybody in this community knows her name, but an undersung
Oh, definitely.
figure in the surf world. But she's in the
She's
East Coast
in the
Surfing
East
Hall
Coast
of Fame.
Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
She surfed really well. She won the U.S. championships in Huntington Beach one year, and so she
Incredible.
can definitely surf and just talented board builder too. 'Cause she did everything. She glassed the boards, she sanded them. She did it all the way through, right there at her house.
Unbelievable.
And I just watched it happen, learn how to do it.
Another piece of Ricky Carroll trivia, surf history that needs to be cemented here tonight. Trivia question for you guys. You're going to win a pair of NVS fins. Actually, Chaz, you got your readers ready?
Man, how bad does the eyesight go and quick? I was fine until like a year ago.
So, in italics, Ricky.
Okay. Ricky got a slot on the U.S. team to compete at the ISA World Surfing Championship in Australia. He did this by winning the U.S. title at Cape Hatteras. What division did he win?
No. Juniors, no. Men's, no. Not Menahune. And now we're going to transition. What?
Oh, we're going to transition?
What category of surfboard was it? What division of surfboard was it? Not longboard, not shortboard.
Egg.
Kneeboard. Right? It's just your friends that are getting the questions correct. This isn't fair. All right. So you either get a pair of twin fins, so Orca twin fins, Taylor Knox twin fins, or Timmy Patterson thrusters.
No,
Knox
get the Orca
twins.
twin fins.
This guy's
down.
going to be doing huge frontside gaffs in front of you guys.
That's actually my dad.
Congratulations. That's your dad.
Yeah. And then Terry, the guy next to him that won the last question, when we lived in Satellite Beach, that was our next door neighbor. That's who I grew up next to, and we'd go surfing together. So yeah,
The system
I
is
was born in
rigged,
Cape
folks.
Canaveral until I was 7.
It's
we all hung
rigged. It's
along.
all rigged.
Let's get your name on the record. Mike? Yes. Mike Quintal.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then Terry Savage right here.
Yeah, Justin will claim Jack's Beach, but he's from.
Yeah.
Satellite.
Born in the same hospital as Kelly Slater. No, I don't know. He's never
Yeah.
acknowledged me, but I'll acknowledge that fact.
So let's illuminate the trivia question. Ricky, kneeboard.
Kneeboard, yeah. So how did I do that? So good friend of mine, Jimbo Gaskins, he was a editor for or a writer for Surfing magazine for a long time. But he ran the NSSA on the East Coast. He was the very first person to have an NSSA contest on the East Coast. And we would surf in the ESA together, and we'd be surfing our heats. And then they had the bodyboard division. Well, actually, kneeboard came first. So it was like, let's kneeboard. And I'm like, why?
I remember doing ESA in Charleston. It was like we do bodyboard,
Right.
kneeboard, longboard.
And he
everything.
goes, because we can go surf another heat, instead of sitting on the beach waiting for our heat to come up. It's like, okay, so I started kneeboard. Then I started longboarding. Then I didn't do bodyboard, but
Yeah. Well.
so it was just like something fun to do,
Do you still kneeboard?
No.
Never. When was the last time you were on a
Don't let him
kneeboard?
lie to you guys.
Actually, it might be going back to kneeboard when I can't pop up anymore.
I mean,
but-
so I was going to say, I know a great chiropractor who's gone full kneeboard
Right.
and swears by it. So,
Yeah,
like,
right.
he's like, the way you can turn
I
all
still
that.
shaped
Yeah.
some boards for guys that have done that where they said, I just can't get up anymore, but I want to get out there. Can you make me a kneeboard? And so there's guys out there riding kneeboards because they, you still want to surf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Justin Quintal,
Yeah.
this is how you beat
Well,
So
thinking
it's funny that
Joel Tudor.
Well, I actually broke my foot a few years ago
Kneeboarding?
in 2 places. No. It's a boating accident. But our buddy Jerry Weckworth, who he passed away a few years ago actually too, but as he got older, he surfed his whole life, and like you said, similar, like him and his wife Nancy, they'd make their own trunks out of canvas and everything. They're like old school, and he made these like knee boards / belly boards. As he got older, his knees got bad, and he loved surfing, wanted to stay in the water, so he would kneeboard till his knees got sore, and then he would belly board on them. But that when I broke my foot, it was like kind of shortly after he passed away, and I took those up to Hatteras. And I was showing some of the Vans team around. I was like, I'm gonna go get some waves for Jerry, and so I tried kneeboarding on it, and that was pretty tough. And then I belly boarded it, but yeah, as you get older and you
Right.
want to stay in the water, whatever you got to do to stay out there,
Keep practicing. You could be the 7+ time kneeboard champion.
Dude, Kevin Scavarna, I don't know if you guys know him at all, but he's
Yeah.
kind of holding it down in that world. It's
I only know
kinda
him from longboarding.
Yeah.
I didn't realize.
When I went to Australia for that contest, I was surprised at the talent of guys that were just full on, just doing barrel rolls and stuff. I was like, whoa.
Well, like especially too, like back in the
Yeah.
day, that was really what set the standard for like barrel riding. Like
Right.
I know my dad's, he grew up in San Diego and Big Rock, obviously, Crazy Slab, back to Joel and Tosh. The original dudes were riding kneeboards,
Yep.
and that's where kind of the modern keel fin fish came from. And so yeah, kneeboarding definitely has a big part in surfing.
I
and
do have
modern
a
surfing.
funny story about kneeboarding. So
This
Come on,
is the
champ,
perfect
let's hear
venue.
it.
when you talked about people getting punched out and stuff on the North Shore, it has to do with that.
Oh, so did you get punched out for kneeboarding?
So I was at the U.S. Championships in Haleiwa in 1980, and I didn't sign up for kneeboard. I was already kneeboarding, but I just didn't sign up for it. So I was in the men's division, and I got to about the semis, and my semifinal heat was Marvin Foster and all the Haleiwa guys, so I didn't make it out of that heat. There was
a
no
rough
way
heat to
I was
make.
going to get through that heat.
It's a rough one to make out.
So our director came up and said, hey, there's some kneeboard slots. You want a kneeboard? And I'm like, well, I don't even have a kneeboard. And, well, we just find something that's under 5'8" was the length. If it was over 5'8", you couldn't ride it. And this surfer on our team, Jan Futch, she had this little MTB twin fin that was 5'6". And I said, well, let me take that, So I signed up for kneeboard. Haleiwa, full 8-foot Haleiwa. I'm talking Hawaiian. I'm not talking. It was treacherous. So I go out in the heat. There's 3 of us in the heat, and one of the guys in the heat is Gabe. He was the HSA director, so he was going to win, And after the heat, they kept saying this all during the contest. Don't stand up after your heat; you'll be disqualified. So I'm out in the kneeboard heat, and I'm like, well, if I stand up after the heat, I'm not kneeboarding, so I guess that's all right. So this macking set comes in. I wasn't going to belly it in at Haleiwa, so I took off. I stood up, got pitted, got spit out. Yeah, and come surfing. Everybody at the beach is going crazy, and I'm like coming in, just big smile on my face. It's like I didn't even care about the kneeboard heat.
Right,
I just
I
got
just wanted
one
to
of the
make it
best
in.
waves I had the whole time I was in Hawaii. And I come up on the beach, and one of the spotters, his name's Earl. He was a Marine guy that worked for the Haleiwa Surf Center there. And he comes up to me and starts poking me in the chest. Hey, you stand up after your heat, bro. You're out. You know, I'm like, I don't care. So what? You know, like, did you see that wave I just had? And he just kept pushing me, and I'm just like, whoa, you know. And Bill Curry was a guy who was on our team at that time, and he was like master longboarder, and he was in the masters division, and he always won the Ironman. He's standing right next to me, and the guy turned away, and I looked at Bill, and I said, who was that asshole? The guy goes, you call me asshole, bro? And just clocked me.
Oh,
God.
Got me down on the ground, put his foot on my chest. Are you going to get up, bro? And I'm like, I don't think so.
Last time you ever stood up in a kneeboard?
Yeah, that's the last time I stood up.
Unbelievable.
That's funny.
Before we talk about your first duct tape win, Justin, help us understand the importance of the duct tape. I feel like it's ubiquitous now. We all know what it is. We see it around. But why did Joel create it? Why did he need to create it?
Right. So yeah, it's actually sad that I don't think there's any plans right now for duct tape or future duct tape, and it's really a great platform for longboarding. Like what Vans and what Joel did with that, I feel very lucky to have kind of timing wise and life and everything, and that platform was available. It was huge for longboarding because the WSL really wasn't giving longboarding a proper tour or platform. So like I was going to college at the time, figured I'd probably take over my parents' pool company after, and that was like kind of the direction I was going.
So why
Right.
did you peel off that direction?
I
That
wish
direction
maybe I
seems
should have stayed with
awesome.
that. Yeah. Looking back on it, yeah, probably would have been a good call. But as a Grom, you're like, and someone who's really into longboarding, I was like, I want to be a world champion. I want to be like Joel Tudor. I want to do all these things, and there really wasn't that path as a younger longboarder. So it was really cool that the duct tape came along and kind of gave that platform to longboarding. I really think that they're responsible for a lot of the resurgence of longboarding, in modern times. And now I even feel like it's retracting a little bit that platform isn't there. And I try to throw a contest here called the Loggerhead, and a lot of that is based off my influences from the duct tape and trying to give a platform back to longboarding in general. I've been trying to grow. I've been doing it now for 8 years. We're on our 6th iteration of it, and part of that is because I feel like someone's got to pick up the slack there and create a platform. I feel like Iz down at Mexi Log Fest has done a great job of that, and we're even talking about collaborating on an event together and trying to, whether it's a series or just like a few events a year where longboarding has a solid platform for talent from all over the world to come together, show what they got. Because the WSL, I want to see them succeed. I want to see them thrive, and I want to see this path for longboarding that's like, yeah, if you're really talented and you really care about this and this is what you want to do, I would love to see a similar path as there is for shortboarding for longboarding. But there wasn't really that until the duct tape came along, and it took a little while to build. And then I feel like midway through the whole duct tape timeline and phase, it really did a lot of great things for longboarding. And so I was stoked to be a part of that at that time, and I feel really grateful and lucky that all lined up with where I was at in life.
Do you have a kneeboard division in the Loggerheads?
No.
And a masters kneeboard division?
Yeah, masters.
No,
where
but
Ricky
maybe.
could come back.
Yeah.
Ricky could redeem his Haleiwa
Yeah.
Right.
mess up.
Right.
But
Yeah.
similar to that story, I grew up doing ESA in Charleston, South Carolina, and Tybee Island, and like Ricky said, you would kind of just sign up for every division because you're sitting on the beach all day with your friends and family, and it's like the more opportunity to go get in the water, however that is, whether it's kneeboarding, bodyboarding, whatever, you just signed up for every division, did it.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, when I was younger too, they would make you judge heats, and you'd have to judge all these different divisions. I feel like that's something that a lot of kids these days miss out on. Like everyone shows up to a contest, signs up, pays their entry fee, and is like, all right, I'm going to try to win this thing, right? When I was younger, they would teach you the nuts and bolts of the event, and they're like, all right, to get an ESA membership, if you want to be an all-star and stuff, like you have to judge this many heats, and you have to surf these many divisions, and you have to like learn what a surf contest really is like. And having that perspective of judging heats and then being on the other side of it in surfing heats helped me a lot moving forward. And I think that's one of the reasons why I was so successful in surfing, and especially when it comes to competitions.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that was really cool. I wish we
one
saw
of those
more
things that the ESA did. I did that early on when I surfed with the Central Florida district, i.e. Kelly Slater, Jeff Klugel, Bob Roman,
Right.
Jackie Grayson, all these stars that came from the ESA Central Florida, because the art district director's like, you're not sitting on the beach and doing nothing, you're judging. And
Right.
they made you
That's
judge.
another reason you signed up for more divisions, because
Yeah,
if
more
they saw you
divisions.
sitting there like, hey,
Right.
all right, kid, pick up a clipboard and start
Right.
judging heats. Or
But it taught you,
Crack some
it taught
beers.
you a lot, because you'd always have the people that come complain, why I lose my heat?
right,
I thought I
but you
ripped.
knew exactly why. Like when I'm in a heat, I know exactly where I should be, and if the judges are wrong, I know that they're wrong and
Right.
why. And it's not like a subjective thing; it's more like a objective. And you know that's also why I feel comfortable running a contest. But
Do you want to say
Yeah, I
something?
wanted to say about the Joel doing the duct tape, and I think I was kind of there when that started being a thought in his head. We were at the Rabbit Kakai contest in Boca Barranca, and Joel was riding a 2+1 DT3 model that had Joel Tudor's name on it, and he wasn't even, he had a single fin, and he rode it, but in the contest he was riding his 2+1 because Colin McPhillips and all these other guys, Josh Baxter, are going up and whacking the lip, myself included. And he was like, I got to surf like that, and I don't want to.
right,
And then I think that's the thing, because he lost early in that contest, and he was so bummed, and he was just like, I'm going to do something about this. And I think that's what really got him going on, wow, let's get it back to traditional longboarding.
Great
Right.
detail.
Yeah.
So, how many duct tapes existed before you got your first invite? And tell the story of that first invite.
yeah. So I was at the first duct tape, and I was doing a bunch of surf contests along the East Coast, a lot of pro contests along the East Coast in Florida. I was basically winning most of the major pro longboard events at that time. I was probably like 17, 18. The first duct tape was when I was 19. And Paul West was running a few of those contests. Mitch Kaufman was running some of those contests. But Paul West had always ran the ECSC, and it was like I don't know which year it was for the ECSC that the duct tape hopped on, but it's been running for over 50 years, and it was like a historic year, and so they're all, yeah, basically the duct tape was like, all right, this year we're gonna do it here, and it was a good year to partner. And Paul ran that, and I was
Are you watching your own wave right now?
I kind of am. but Paul, I'm like, damn, kind of shuffled there.
Is
But
that board working for you there?
but
Shout out to Tony
Like,
Roberts, by the way.
I used to watch like Sprout and Seedling, right? When I'd come home from school, I'd be on my Indo board with like a mirror set up, like trying to look like Alex Knost and CJ Nelson and Joel Tudor and stuff. And I heard there was gonna be this longboard contest where like CJ Nelson was gonna be there, Joel Tudor, Cassian Miador, Alex Knost. And I was like, oh my God, like I did my first surf contest in Georgia in Tybee Island. Like I never thought I was gonna meet these guys, let alone be able to do a contest where I'm competing with these guys. And these are my heroes and I idolize them. And I was like, Paul, you got to get me in this fucking contest. Like, if you get me in this event, I swear to God, I'll do whatever it takes. I'll win. Get me in it. Please, like, go to bat for me. And he's like, I got you. So Vans is putting this contest together. All my idols, right? They only had 16 people total in it. And Paul's like, hey, would love to host your event here at ECSC, but you got to give me one spot for an East Coast kid. Let me put him in there, give me one wild card spot. And they didn't have anyone from the East Coast, and it's the longest running East Coast surf contest in history. And they're like, no, like, we've been trying to put this thing together for years. There's too much on the line. If this kid blows it, like, we don't, just let us do our thing. Come on. We're the main sponsor of the event. And Paul's like, no. He's like, I'm not going to let you guys do it unless you give me one spot for this kid. So they caved last minute. Paul's like, you're in, get up here. I'm like, fuck yeah. And they have this weight limit on your board, right? And I'm talking to Ricky, and I already had this nice single fin nose rider from him, but I'm like, dude, we got to make this board that's just gonna, like, I got to be able to win this thing. got to be able to nose ride the shit out of this board.
The
I gotta
weight
turn
limit, meaning it
well.
had to be heavy.
Heavier.
Right, and the weight
Yeah.
limit had to be at least 16 pounds. And I'm like, they already don't want me there. They're probably going to look for any reason to not let me surf the contest. So I got to make sure everything's perfect, right?
Had to be 9.6 also. He never rode a 9.6. up
Yeah,
until that
my
time.
single fin at the time was a 9.4. I'm like kind of a little skinnier kid.
A lot
Yeah,
skinnier.
a lot skinnier than I am now. Yeah. Hey, I was 18, right? 19. But so I remember I got the board, and the board only weighed like 14 pounds or something. And I'm like, fuck, it's got to be 16 pounds. I'm like, my buddy Jimmy, who's also in the crowd. We're in college at the time. We're living together. I'm like, dude, I did the math, and it was like 11 bars of wax. I'm like, we got to wax this thing with 11 bars of wax.
That's a good
Yeah.
friend right there.
Make sure, so like,
Wow.
and this is when we're in college, we're just starting to smoke weed and stuff.
How-
So we're like,
How thick was the deck of wax?
dude, it was the best wax job I've ever had. There's no way I was losing that contest. So we get all stoned and we're watching surf videos and we're just waxing. He's on one end waxing the board. I'm on the other. I'm like, how many bars have you done? He's like, 3. I'm like, I got 4. So we did 11 bars of wax, probably 30 bong rips, a couple beers,
That is
watched a bunch of
epic.
YouTube videos, and
That's a surf story.
Yeah, long
right
story
there.
short.
Yeah.
I ended up getting, I know my first heat wasn't the best heat, but then the second heat, I got a 10 and like a 9.5 or something, and
Just
Joel was just
ankle,
tripping.
ankle deep in wax.
Oh, dude. Yeah, exactly. It had this weight to it that just was unstoppable.
Couldn't fall.
I couldn't fall. Everything was perfect.
Incredible story.
Yeah.
That was Virginia Beach.
Yeah, that was Virginia
What-
Beach,
and
ECSU.
You said it was the first duct tape?
That was the first duct tape. And I was also like, I know I got to win this thing if I'm going to get invited back. Right?
Yeah.
So I ended up smoking everyone, won the contest. The next one was in Montauk, and they invited me there, and I won the next one too. And then the rest is kind of history.
So the trivia question for the crowd: wearing a beach towel and a hat from our
Except wait,
buddies.
I think we have to disqualify
You guys are out.
the
You guys are out.
first table here.
Okay, really got to identify who picks.
'Kay,
'Cause
I'm
it's going to be a
looking.
lot of numbers at once. How many duct tape invitations? Who said 11? He said
Boom.
7, which I threw you off. Unfortunately, I said 7 at one point. It's 11.
Smoke.
11.
11.
All right. The beach towels from realwatersports.com, by the way. While I'm grabbing those beach towels, Justin,
Damn, Trip couldn't give you guys a surfboard for this? He's got more
Trip?
inventory than anyone on the East Coast.
come on, Trip. Is there a way to compare? We will talk about the WSL World Title, but how do you compare duct tape titles versus WSL?
Good question.
I would say the first duct tape was just as meaningful as the world title. To me, those are kind of synonymous. And then another special one was the 10th year anniversary in Mexico. I won the 10th one, and I didn't even really realize that, but I was so much older at that point, and to kind of reflect on all that and look back and be like, wow, I'm still here, still winning these events, and like also seeing how much longboarding had moved forward at that point was really special. And
Did you get chaired up the beach?
I did not. I was a little heavier at that point, so I had a little trouble. And
Do longboarders?
I drank a bunch of mezcal too, so I just more like stumbled up the beach. But they thought it would be like a disservice, but they made us all take a couple shots of mezcal, and that was the one where I like pointed at the beach and made a whole scene. But
I remember that one.
yeah, it worked out perfectly.
Well, during that world title win, I know there was kind of a meaningful exchange at Noosa that year. It wasn't the final event of the season, but the Noosa event with
Right.
you and Harrison. Let's
Yes.
talk about that.
Yeah, so that was actually the first event of the tour, and that was when the WSL was actually like trying to put more energy, revamp the tour, and like they're like, hey, we want to make longboarding a legitimate thing.
The Devin Howard era.
Ooh,
Yeah, I think Devin had maybe just he might not.
No, I think
No,
was in that.
he was just getting started. Yeah,
That's it, yeah.
and I even remember it wasn't even on my radar.
Devin fucking Howard.
Yeah, that son of a bitch. Yeah. So he calls me. He's like, "Hey, Justin, like the WSL is trying to really revamp the tour, put some more resources into it. They want to see it thrive and, you know, be a legitimate tour. And I was like, well, that's great. And he kind of sold me on it, and I was like, all right, yeah, I'll do it. I'll go do the first event, see how it goes. And so it was kind of just a week or two before the event. And that was kind of a big decision. All right, I'm going to hop on a plane, go to Noosa, do this whole thing. I was going to have to start from the very first round. So I wasn't seeded into the event. I surfed over 8 rounds to get to the final in that event. Ended up being 3 different locations because the swell was constantly changing. So it started at Noosa, first point, and it was pretty good. Then went to these jetties down the beach. Then ended up going to this, around the headland, to this beach break. And there was a heat there in the semifinals with Harrison Roach. And I would say it was probably one of the best, most like pure competition moments I've had in surfing. And it was just, me and Harrison grew up competing against each other. We're really good friends, similar ages, different sides of the world, but like kind of my Australian brother, you know, like we've always stayed in touch. We'll call each other every now and then, just see what's going on, but just on very similar trajectories. And that was like, we were always very competitive with each other, but it was like a very like friendly competition, very professional. And like one thing I hate about competition, people think I'm like, I guess I am pretty competitive, but and it's taken me a while to acknowledge that, but competition was always a means to an end. It was like, all right, I'm from Florida, from nowhere. Like, how do I make surfing a path in life? And like, I want to go get these crazy waves of Pipeline. I want to go surf these crazy waves. Like, how do I do that? Well, we have small, clean waves, and I have a longboard, and that's probably the best way to make a name for myself. And like, I had to do these competitions, and a lot of times it was hustling, and it was like putting everything on the line to just get one contest to the next. And yeah, long story short, I've never been so competitive where like I've never wanted to win a contest where it's like, all right, you get someone to DQ or something, or like play dirty or whatever. In that heat with Harrison, we were just going wave for wave, kind of like blow for blow. Like, we started off the heat and he had like an 8 or a 9, and then I got an 8 or a 9, and then right off the bat he got another 9, I got like another 8 or a 9, and we're like, it was just like high score, high score, high score, and it wasn't the best waves ever, but like we were breathing down each other's necks, paddle battling, but like just keeping each other on our toes. And like at the same time, like I remember there was a moment, it's in the WSL article that I sent you, but there was a moment where Harrison was like, fuck, I think you got me. Like, I don't know if I can, like he needed a 9.5 or something. And he's like, you might have got me. I was like, dude, if anyone here can do it, you can do it. Come on, don't give up. You know, like, don't give up on me now. Let's keep this thing going. Like, and it was just like, whether I won or lost or he won or lost, it was like just some of the best longboarding and the best surfing head to head, and one of the coolest moments in competition I've had. So to me, out of all the moments on the tour that year, that was very special. And like, it was just waist high, kind of sloppy waves at some random beach break close to Noosa. But with him in that moment, it was awesome.
Yeah. Awesome. Round of applause. Yeah, Chaz was asking me how competitive longboarding gets, you know, and I'm like, it's just festivals, you know, everybody just goes and hangs out and has a good time. But
it's not that, like, if you're competing though, at some level you're competing, right? Like, it's
right.
not like, okay, it's all, let's everybody take a party wave and
right.
cross step and da 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 da.
Yeah,
No,
I mean,
like,
I think
somebody's a winner and somebody's a loser.
Right. For different people, it means different things maybe. And like
11-time winner.
Right. Yeah.
11 times.
Whatever.
I know.
Who's counting? But yeah, I think it's like whatever you want to make of it. And that's what's cool about longboarding, right? Like, if you want to be competitive about it, yeah, the talent's there and you can take it as serious as you want. But there's sometimes the person just having the most fun literally outside of the water too.
Please do not tell me.
I'm not saying like
best surfer in the water.
No, I'm not saying like I'm not saying the one having the most fun,
Thank
like
you.
the cliche, like, oh, that's the best surfer. I'm saying the person that's like raging all night, partying. You're like, how's that guy gonna make his heat the next day?
I should
and
be
somehow
a longboarder.
they stumble into a win, and you're like, well, that's pretty badass. And that's cool. And like,
well, that's it.
so there's like that fine line where like maybe the most
stories about me.
huh? Yeah.
Were you a hard partying cross stepper?
Yeah, I've always been a musician, so I've always played in bands, and I can remember playing until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, driving my truck up to the beach that I was going to surf the contest 7 o'clock in the morning, getting a few winks in the van and have somebody come knock on my window, wake me up so I could get to my heat.
Right.
Well-
how much does a no sleep, boozy diet night before help in just like that longboard style?
No.
The first duct tape I won, we were in Virginia Beach, right? I'm surrounded by my heroes. They have these things called Orange Crushes up there, and we were at Waterman's, and it was like the Vans party for it. I'm like, fuck it, I'm with CJ Nelson, Alex Nose, Joel Tudor. I'm crushing Orange Crushes. Like double fisting. I got hammered drunk that night. End up going back to the hotel. My dad's like, are you wasted right now? Like 19. I'm like, no, I'm good. Next morning we're driving to the contest, and we're with Kenny Andrews. He's got a sliding door on his van. And I'm like, do you guys have Tylenol or anything? And they're like, he's like, I got goody powder, which is like aspirin and caffeine crushed up, like a little wax paper thing. I'm like, give it to me. And I go to take it, and it hits the back of my throat. And I'm like, gagging. We pull up to First Street, and I open the door and just projectile vomited everywhere. And that was the first day of the duct tape. I ended up winning that contest, and it's probably one of the most biggest moments of my life. So, yes, I think it does a lot, actually, and it gets you in this like lucid kind of state where you can accomplish almost anything, really.
I never knew until this moment that I'm a longboarder.
You would have never known.
I
Yeah.
am. My heart's true home
Yeah.
is longboarding.
I think it helps
And
when
later
you're
that-
19 too.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I was not. Yeah, exactly.
Might not work as well now.
Yeah.
Kneeboarding is what I meant.
Well, while we're talking about competition, Ricky Carroll's won a few contests in his post-surf professional surf career as well. For the other set of NVS fins, how many Icons of Foam shaping competitions has Ricky Carroll won at the boardroom show? Who said 3? 3 right there.
Boom.
Bonus points if you can name
Who he beat?
which Icons of Foam they were honoring. There's 3 in 3 different years. If not, I'll tell you. Yeah, Ricky.
Yeah. So who were the honorees? At
Well-
each boardroom show, they picked an honoree shaper that we had to copy the board. And that's actually a trick question because I did win 3 in the boardroom show in California, but one year they had the boardroom show here in Orlando, and I won that one too.
4 times.
So I actually won it 4 times.
Time. Master of foam.
And is it the boardroom show too? Like if you don't know much about that, that's where they basically give you a board and you're not able to use any measuring tools or anything. Right. It's basically just you're eyeballing this board and trying to replicate it.
And
so
also,
and you have a time limit too. So that's
and also in a
super,
glass box in front of people.
in front of everyone, in front of all your peers, and
Everyone-
the best
everyone
shapers
there.
in
The
the
glass,
world, yeah.
the glass box eliminates all the shadows that you normally use, the lighting that you normally
Right.
use.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's not only difficult because of the conditions, but everybody's just standing there tapping on the glass, looking at you, and but
So they pick an honoree, and the honoree is an iconic shaper who's known for shaping, these iconic boards, maybe 2 or 3 different ones. And so they'll pick that honoree's iconic design, and that's the one you have to replicate without any warning or measurement devices.
Do you know who the 3 are?
I
Or
know
4?
in advance.
There's a 4th though
Yeah.
that you don't know.
yeah, there's a 4th.
You could win a pair of NVS fins, David Lee Scales.
Well, it wasn't. No, I do know the 4th. It wasn't an Icons of Foam. It was a Chunk of Foam challenge.
Right.
Oh,
So it was a different competition.
Caveat.
Yes.
Nice try. Which is
David-
an even harder competition. So
Right.
hard, in fact, we stopped doing it.
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah.
So, Diffenderfer?
Yep.
Mike Diffenderfer in 2007.
Yeah.
Bill Castor in 2008. MR in, I don't know if it's 2010 or 2012.
12, I think.
Which
2012.
MR board did they give you?
His classic
Just this-
wing swallow twin fin that he shaped, one of the boards he rode all the time on the tour. And that one, that shape off to me, like the very first shape off, nobody knew what to expect. It was the very first one. Nobody had any idea how it was going to go, what we were going to do. And I showed up. I didn't even think about, I'm going to come and win this thing. I just was glad to participate and
You're
be
the
there.
you're the Justin Quintal of shaping, is what I'm hearing.
There was a moment there where it was really cool. We were both simultaneously winning a lot of stuff. It was-
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
we're on fire. It's
So I win the first one, and then they automatically invite you back the next year. And so I was invited back to the second one, and that one was a surprise to me. You know, I thought I didn't do a good enough job to win. I thought I left too much on the table, and I won that one, and I was really stoked. Then I came back for the third one, and I helped my friend Pat Rawson win that one. He didn't have some tools. I let him borrow my tools, and he ended up winning.
That's a cool relationship there, too.
Yeah, what's your
with Pat?
relationship with Rawson?
So I met Pat. I used to shape locomotion boards when I worked at Natural Art back in the 80s.
Okay.
And Ron Rouse was the shaper who came over from Hawaii and kind of brought the licensee to the East Coast. And Natural Art picked up the licensee. So he was the shaper. Ron's a great guy. He's passed away. And we were always good friends. We were terrible workers together. We always butted heads. And so I shaped boards for Natural Art for quite a few years doing the locomotions. And then Ron and Pete Dooley, who owned Natural Art, had butted heads too much, and he took the licensee to another manufacturer. So I didn't shape them anymore, and they were kind of taken from me. And then when I left Natural Art and started my own business, R&D Surf, in '92, we went to the Surf Expo the first time with my partner, Dusty, and we had a little booth. We had like 6 boards in it. You know, we were just like, we were nobody. You know, we were just nobody there. And we're sitting in the booth, and walking up to the booth is Pat Rawson and Rusty Priesendorfer, and they're pulling the boards out and looking them over, and I'm looking at my partner Dusty, and I'm like, what the fuck are these guys doing looking at my boards, you know? And so Pat comes over and goes, hey, you know, I'm going to introduce myself. You don't have to introduce yourself. I know who you are. And he goes, we have a mutual friend that we shape for. And I'm like, oh, who's that? He's like, Shane Oran. He speaks really highly of you. And he's like, yeah, I've shaped a lot of boards for Shane. And he's like, you know, we're looking for a new East Coast licensee for locomotion. And I'm like, really? You know, we were just getting started. You know, we had left Natural Art. We had no money. There was kind of a downturn in the surfing market in that time, the early 90s. It was just, we were just scrapping. And to have somebody come up and say, do you want a licensee for locomotion, the hottest brand going at the time? We're like, yeah.
Yeah.
So got to start talking to Pat, and he's like, yeah, you know, we'll get you to come over and sign a contract. You can stay at my house. I stayed at Pat's house the next 20 years
So cool.
every winter and shaped boards for locomotion over there. And, you know, it was my home away from home.
Yeah.
I'm curious, like we all go into a surf shop and we hold the boards and try to look at, we don't know what we're looking at. You know, like we
I know
look
what
at
I'm
the rails,
looking at.
looking at an angle, put it down, put the nose down.
Looks
Look,
cool, man.
you have to look at something. We don't really know what we're looking for.
Right.
What do you, what did they identify by looking at your boards, do you think? Like, how do you identify quality when you're looking at a board?
Yeah, so a shaper looking at another shaper's board, you know, they're going to be your best critic. You know, they're going to look at your board and go, yeah, outline's got some bumps in it. It's high on this side. You know, it's just not symmetrical, stuff
Okay.
like that. You know, so it's just looking at, do you have concaves? You know, how the shape, you know, is it basic looking or is it looking like what's going on at the time? You know, so.
I'll say real quick to speak to that. One thing about Ricky's boards that have always, like one of the reasons I've always ridden your boards, especially longboards, been my go-to, is just the balance that you find in the shape. Like it, I feel like it has a little bit of every element that you want in a board, and that's maybe a different time era, but like I feel like
Right.
the boards you're building, they're for the East Coast, so they have to work and everything, but at the same time, you have world-class waves in mind, and you have a really good balance board the whole way around. And balance is one of the things I feel like us working together, we've always, every board we look at, it's like, all right, at the end of the day, or like when we're done with it, it's like, is it well balanced? Does it look like...
How much are you into shaping now? I mean,
I've only shaped probably 11 boards, and
but even like the art of it, right? Like looking or knowing what you want or knowing what's happening.
He's always been into it. Like when he came in at 15,
Yeah.
14, how, you know, he was watched me shape his first board all the way through, and from then it was always, I'm going to come down and talk to you about my next board, and you know. So,
Yeah,
we-
and
So, you know, you like, I want
Yeah, I
whatever
think there's,
nose
like-
rider I need. I'm feeling I need
Right.
X here.
to an extent, I'm working through him,
Yeah.
but also he's obviously the master craftsman. So it's like just our relationship, us working together, I think it's important that people pursue that, honestly, in surfing. I think that's something that's lost these days.
Definitely.
And I would never want to take too much credit for any of the boards because I could not replicate one of these the way he does and his skill and the way he shapes. But at the same time, there's something special about when we go into a shaping room together and we walk out with that board. It's a bit of him and myself, and there's something special there.
There's a lot of input. Some surfers don't have that input knowledge, so they're like, "Oh, you do it. Do what you do."
Right.
But
and he's always been so good about, like, if I'm like, this is the feeling I'm going for, and I think this is what I want out of a board. Whether he's like affirming that, validating that, or he just is able to communicate in that, like, all right, if that's the feeling you're looking for, this is what we got to do, and this is the concept, and this is why it makes sense.
Does he ever tell you you're wrong? Like, nope.
Not very much, but yeah, every now and then, like.
I wouldn't say wrong, but I wouldn't do that. I would not suggest going in that direction for what you're telling me you want the board to do.
But he always was good about explaining why certain concepts work. And I feel like maybe surfers, even at the highest level, that don't have that relationship with their shaper and don't go into the shaping bay and they don't understand completely why each element of that shape works. It doesn't give you the confidence when you go out in the water. Like, I know pretty much how it's going to perform. And you start learning the character traits of a board that's like, all right, if I need to go faster, if I wanted to slow down in this certain type of wave or whatever, like, he was always very good about educating me on those things.
So Ricky Carroll has a factory, Ricky Carroll R&D Surf, and then you have Ricky Carroll Surfboards. Yeah. But that first Duct Tape win led to a joint venture, which is Black Rose.
Correct, yeah.
So talk about that and how that's different than, let's say, Ricky Carroll Surfboards.
I would say at first it started out like, all right, we made a model off that nose rider that I won the first Duct Tape on. And for a long time, that was a great thing, and we kind of made a couple iterations off of it. But as I got older and wanted to just make more models, and he was doing these labels he was shaping for a bunch of different labels, I was like, maybe I just make my own label. And we, instead of calling them all like these different Justin Quintal models, it's Black Rose. We make these different models.
Great name, Black Rose, BTW. Wow, how?
Thank you.
Real quick, just the inspiration, just because Black Roses are cool.
So at the time, I didn't have a main sponsor really. So I was waiting tables at Outback Steakhouse. I was doing labor for my dad.
Why didn't you name it the stinking Bloomin' Onion?
Probably would have been a great idea.
Lawsuit in the making.
Right. But I was working pretty hard to get from contest to contest, trying to make it, grinding, right? And I actually had just graduated college, drove across to California from Florida, drove across the country, won the U.S. Open for like the second or third time, and I was driving back home solo. And I was in Arizona or New Mexico.
When does the euphoria wear off?
The road goes on forever and the party never ends, brother.
That's what I wanted to hear.
But so I'm like in Arizona, I'm listening to some old country, outlaw music, smoking weed. I got this big jacked up 4-wheel drive van.
Smoking weed, you mean when you were parked in a nice hotel?
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, man, I got to do something. I got to figure it out. Like, if I'm not going to get a sponsor, like, I got to make my own brand or something. And like, I got something good going on here. Like, how do we do more than just like a model surfboard? How do I make my own brand? How do I become self-sustainable? I got something here. I'm like, all right, I'm going to make a brand. We're going to do a label. I'm going to sponsor surfers. I'm going to like start just selling more surfboards. And I pull over in Arizona or New Mexico, and I walk into this gas station, and I'm like trying to think of like an idea, like a name, a symbol, something. And this guy has this pearl button up, and he's got these roses, and it's like a Western shirt, and it's a black shirt with red roses. But I'm like, damn, roses are kind of cool, and all these country songs singing about like roses and shit, but they're all kind of dark and gnarly. And
Black Rose.
And I'm like, Black Rose.
That is a phenomenal origin
like Black
story.
Rose. Like that's what it needs to be. Is like just put a Black Rose on the board, and that'll be sick. It'll sell itself, right? And like who wouldn't want to ride for a label called Black Rose? So like then we can do different models with different surfers, and it'll just be one. It'll be the symbol, and it can speak for itself, and that's where the idea came
Are
from.
you looking to sponsor any surf journalists?
I'm gonna need you to get real gritty, get dirty, get black rosy with it. But yeah, we can talk about it.
Your stories sound made up. Your
Yeah.
origin stories.
Yeah,
They're really good.
thanks.
I mean, I believe you. I'm not calling you a liar.
Yeah.
Ricky, I was talking to Scott Bass, and he was telling me about you winning that first boardroom show. It was called Sacred Craft at
right.
the time. And he's like, yeah, I didn't know Ricky Carroll. I didn't know the name. He's from the East Coast, whatever. And I was blown away. And he's continued to kind of set the standard. Did that do anything for your business?
Oh, definitely.
It did?
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, when I went over there, there wasn't hardly anybody on the East Coast that even knew I was going. It was like
Okay.
it wasn't promoted, it wasn't advertised,
Right.
and then when I won, it was just like, I was shocked to start with. They were shocked. All of California was completely shocked. I didn't know if I was going to make it out of the state alive because, I mean, there was all kinds of talk going on. Like, how did this no-name kid from Florida win the shape-off against Terry Martin and Tim Ferriss and Mark Andrini and Jim Phillips, who was an East Coast
You're
guy.
the best.
So there was heavy hitters there,
Yeah.
and so it just opened people's eyes up to like, well, maybe this guy can shape.
So wait, when you were in the box, were you just in the zone? Like, were
Yeah,
you just?
I probably had an advantage over those guys because when I first started my business, R&D Surf, my partner and I, we built a mobile shaping room, and we would take to surf shops, and we would do shaping demos in the parking lot, and malls, and surf shops, and on the beach, and wherever we could take it and do it. So I had a little bit of, I'm already used to working in a little room with people looking at you.
Interesting.
So that did help.
I'm also curious, given that you have built boards for a who's who, like you've had the license for Locomotion,
Right.
Takayama, Christensen,
Yep.
probably a who's who of others. How often do you ride other Shapers surfboards?
Not a lot. I should,
Okay.
but I don't. you
Would
know?
it help?
Yeah. I mean, I no.
Yeah, so
I tell a lot of my team riders, if you get a chance to ride something, ride it. Give me the feedback. What do you see? What do you feel? And going way back when I was shaping boards for Sterling Spencer, his dad Yancey, he was like, he's got to ride disc. He's got to get it to Carroll. He's got to get a Chili. He's got to get someone, and he'd always bring me the board. Like, you got to shape a board just like this. And I was like, well, I can, but don't you want to try to, do this? But so I was, being influenced by whoever the top guy is, that's a good thing, but when you get a guy riding the board, you can get more feedback than just looking at it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I ask that to a lot of Shapers that I interview, and it's 50-50.
Yeah.
Some of them are like, I have so many designs that I need to R&D. I don't have enough time to ride everything,
Right.
but I wish that I did.
Yeah.
And other people are trying to ride as many other things as possible.
Right. I mean, I've gotten to a point where I can just rely on guys like this that know what
Okay.
they're doing in the water.
Right.
thank you. Yeah, I would say that's one thing that's cool about our relationship is I love collecting older boards from every era. And if I see a shaper that's doing something cool and different, like the Keo gun that I got that crazy pipe wave on, he's open to letting me ride different boards. And we have that understanding, like, look, especially with longboards, like, you're always going to be my guy. We're always going to have this relationship. You're always going to be my go-to shaper. But yeah, I want to learn all these different avenues, and being from Florida, and he's surfed a lot of different waves in Hawaii, Puerto Rico, bigger waves and world-class waves. But when you have someone that's shaping for a particular type of wave in a particular area and they're getting feedback all the time, like, that's how you're really going to learn and like test and feel what's the best for these conditions. Like that Keo, they have all sorts of crazy huge slabs in southern Australia, and he's getting feedback from psychopaths that are going out there and just pushing the limits day in and day out when there's swells and the season's right. And it's like, yeah, like no matter how hard Ricky and I try to work together on something like that, like I'm just not gonna, like I want to be able to hop on something and learn from those guys that are doing it all the time. And if someone wants a really good longboard for every condition, we got that dialed in, and we can be the guys that are, showing you that. And there's all these different disciplines and outlets in surfing, right? So it's this huge, like when you really get into it, like I love to fish, and there's all these different types of way you can fish and different lures and different approaches, and like same with surfing. So like when you really dig into it, the more that you're open-minded and willing to work with different people and try different things out, the more it's ultimately going to benefit you, and
Well, while we're on the subject of fishing, I have one more prize to give away, so get ready. You have another title.
Yes.
So, for the record, 11 Duct Tape titles, 5 U.S. Open titles, 1 world title, and 1 fishing world record.
That beats Kelly Slater by like 18.
And Joel combined.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You submitted another title in 2021. For the audience, what was the weight of the world record-setting yellowmouth grouper that
saw
Justin caught in 2021?
I saw this.
27, 25, 23.
It's 23.3 pounds. So
Who said 23?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, no, 23.3. Somebody said 24. I guess 23.
Which
23,
beat the
we're giving it
Yeah.
to 23.
beat the previous record by a pound.
I mean,
Okay.
that's a solid. Is that
It's a
like?
solid lead.
I mean, is that like beating I don't know, the mile by 10 seconds? I mean, is that a
Honestly,
big?
probably relatively novelty, but I was just like, this is a world record fish. I'm going to go get it weighed, do the thing. But it was funny so that was the day I caught that fish was one of the roughest days I've ever gone offshore. And when you go offshore here, you got to go 60 miles. It's a whole commitment. You're waking up super early, running out there. And our buddy, he was a psycho, this guy Ryan Flowers, runs a boat called the Southern Cross.
Fisherman
Big red
psychos
contender.
are unchill.
He ran us almost all the way to St. Augustine because it was so rough, so that we could tack back out, make it out to this ledge. We get out there, end up getting on one of the hottest grouper bites we've ever been on. We're breaking off left and right. I put on the smallest bait I can find because I'm like, I just want a snapper or something to get to the boat. End up catching this world record grouper, and everyone on the boat was joking that the guy that won the previous record was in South Carolina. And they're like, we should get a billboard in that town with the picture of you holding the fish and be like, this guy sucks. Like, we beat the record.
That's epic.
Yeah. I wish we had. We still might, but we'll see.
That's really funny.
How was it in terms of eating?
It's honestly one of the best fish I've ever ate.
Really?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. It's like,
How do you prepare it?
I just blackened it. I made this little peach salsa, if you really want to know.
Oh,
Yeah, I do
Thank
wanna
you.
know.
You
I
gave
very
more-
much want to
But,
don't ever listen. You
But yeah,
understand
the
half of this is
fat
food.
content, the ratio is really good. It flaked really well. It's almost like crab meat and a grouper. It's like flaky.
That's our favorite shell.
Shredded
Are you
as
kidding?
well.
Do you have any more?
It's a very exotic, really. Is the best way to put it.
Is there a career there? I mean, Todd Klein, I feel like, transitioned into a professional fishing career.
He was way
Right.
more famous as a fisherman, I think, than
Yeah.
as a
Right.
surf
Well,
guy.
Chris is holding down the captaining pretty well, so there's a lot of competition in this town.
But also,
But
Is there a way to make a living?
yeah, for sure.
but you have to be fully mentally insane, right, to be a fisherman?
Yes,
I mean,
also Chris is mentally insane. Yeah, he
Yeah.
goes out. He spends more time on the water than on land.
Yeah.
He's a certified pirate.
Yeah.
I kind of want to bring him up here. I don't know if we can.
Is he the one who said 23 pounds?
Yeah,
He's the one who got
probably.
it.
I mean, seriously,
But,
the like people who are obsessed with fishing make
Yeah.
surfers look absolutely
I agree.
normal.
Yeah.
I
Like,
agree, and they're actually more tuned in. They actually know what's
Everything
going
about
on with the
everything.
waves and the tide and everything way better than my surf friends.
Everything.
They're like,
They know
my buddy's like,
everything.
oh, there's a swell, and my buddy's like, oh, we can't fish because there's a swell. Damn it! And like, so yeah, I would say the fishermen are more locked in than the surfers half the time.
And by locked in, what I hear you saying is mentally insane.
Yes. Yeah.
Multiple screws,
Right.
either too tightened or something's going on with the real
Right.
fisherman. Yeah.
Right.
Well, we've referenced it multiple times, but I think we need to discuss the wave of your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
The
really.
wave of your life.
I had seen this thing before. It's one of those things that you see it and it sits in, and then you see it again, and then I was sitting here watching it again, remembering watching it, and thinking, how the fuck, do these damn Florida boys, longboarders, go to pipe and do this.
And
Like,
Right.
are you kidding me?
Give us the how much time had you spent at pipe prior to this?
Right.
How committed were you to pipe?
So yeah, you can't walk down to pipe with a 8.5 that's bright orange. It has a pot leaf and black flames on the fucking deck without going and doing something like that. That's for sure. Everyone was looking at me like I lost my mind walking down the beach that day.
But you knew it. You knew you had this one.
Should we just
that
watch
day.
the
Kinda
wave
did, yeah.
and off for a second before we really discuss? Just make sure everybody has seen this ride.
Which reef? Was this third reef?
Second reef. Yeah.
Second reef.
What?
That felt pretty good.
Second angle.
Yeah.
Your come out claim though, like a wave like that needs to be claimed. And I'm
Right.
so happy.
Oh, the
You're-
whole time I was like, "Don't claim it, don't claim it."
You have
And
to
then
on
everyone
something
was
like that.
so yelling so loud, I was like, "I gotta
Yeah.
claim it." But yeah, so I'd been going out to Hawaii.
Yeah.
I'd been going out to Hawaii since I was like 19 or 20, trying to get a wave like this, right? And
But wait, how do you? I mean, talk about the workup to be quite like going out at 19 from Florida.
right,
Now you're on the North Shore.
yeah.
It's pipeline.
So, yeah, I go out to Hawaii. There's this magazine called Pacific Longboard Magazine. They had ran some stuff of me longboarding. This guy, Kiyoki Sagibo, who I had met when I was younger at Easter Fest in Cocoa Beach, which was a very popular longboard contest. We met when we were both like, I was probably 14, he was probably 15 or 16, maybe younger. Fast forward 5, 6, 7 years. I'm going out to Hawaii to the North Shore to really try to give it a go for the first time. And this longboard, and Kiyoki's just getting into water photography really heavy. And this longboard magazine hits us up, and they're like, "Hey, Justin's heading out here. Kiyoki, you're shooting. Like, if you guys link up and nail some shots, we'll totally do an article on this." And my buddy Marshall that I went to college with, Marshall Alberga, he was living at Waimea at the time, right above Waimea Valley. And Marshall's like, yeah, you can come stay with me for a couple weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, sleep on the couch. We'll do the whole North Shore thing. And I'm like, sick. And oddly enough, Kiyoki lived just his uncle had a house just a couple houses down in the same neighborhood as Marshall. So the program basically was like, all right, let's try to chase shots. Let's make an article out of this. Let's go. So Kiyoki would pick me up early every morning. And right when I got there, this big pipe swell hit. And he picks me up. It's like 5 a.m. We're drinking coffee, taking bong rips in his truck, and it's huge. And he's like, all right, he's like, Justin, like, you got to go. Like, I'm going to be out there ready to shoot in the channel. He's giving me the rundown. He's like, go sit next to Jamie O'Brien and like Anthony Walsh. He's like, those guys are always in the spot.
But you had no idea. I mean, they didn't
Right.
know you, et cetera. Like,
Oh, they don't know me at all.
Yeah,
And
you're not
he,
like
he made
bros.
me. I was like, I hit Kiyoki up before I went out there. I'm like, what's the best board like to get for this? He's like, everyone's riding like a 610. Get a 610 made. I'm like, Ricky, I need a 610 quad fin like for pipe. So I go out there and Kiyoki's like, just like go sit next to those guys, but like not so close that they know that you're following them, but like be close enough to them where you're in the spot, you know? And he's like, let them go on whatever wave they want, just wait, but when one comes and you're in the spot, go. I'm like, all right. So we go out there, I'm waiting. Like an hour goes by and I'm like, maybe the swell will drop. There's no big sets like we saw in the morning in the dark. And then all of a sudden we're looking at the horizon and these like mountains start stacking up.
that's so.
And I'm like, oh my God, like it's happening. What he said was gonna happen is happening. And this random Loke dog goes on this first one. It's kind of big. I'm like, oh, that was crazy. And then Jamie goes on the second one. I'm like, damn, that was a big wave. And then I'm the furthest one out the back, and this bomb is just stacking up. And I'm the only one in the spot, I think. And I'm like, all right, this is the moment he was talking about. Like, just turn around, put your head down, and go. So I put my head down, paddle as hard as I can. There's so many people paddling up the wave. It sounds like a school of fish, like fluttering on top of the water. And I'm the only one paddling down the wave. and I barely get it. I get to my feet. I'm dropping in. It's the biggest wave I've ever caught. And I look up, and Kalani Chapman's down the line just going. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, I don't even know if he even saw me, because so many people were going up the face wave and I was so deep. But I'm like,
but he didn't care.
yeah. And I'm like, I'm gonna die.
Did you straighten out?
So I try to straighten out, and I'm on this, like, I told him to make me this like 70s style Jerry Lopez board, but a quad. And it's kind of lower rocker, and it would have been perfect if I could have just scooped it. But I try to straighten out, and it's sucking below sea level, and it's like the biggest first reef wave ever. And I nose poke, and I start skipping on my back. And I just look up, and this lip, it's like slow motion.
I don't know why I'm laughing.
It goes, I'm just like, oh my God. And it's just the biggest wave I've ever seen. It's like slow motion, and I'm skipping, watching it, and it throws over. And then
You got barreled?
under, yeah. So I get sucked up, and I'm in the curve of the wave, and I start swimming as hard as I can against it. And I'm looking, I can see the sun through the back of the wave. And I can see surfers sitting in the lineup too, because the water's so clear and it's the sun shining through it. And I just swim as hard as I can, and I know I'm gonna get sucked over, but I'm like, just try to delay it so you're not with the lip getting slammed straight into the reef. And it sucks me over, and it blasts me into the air, and I do like a cartwheel. And then I just get slammed in the reef, pinned against it, bounced off it a few times, held under for a while. I come up, I'm okay. Kyoki's looking at me like I just died. And I'm like, I give him the thumbs up. I'm just like, I'm all right. And I paddle back out and try to get another one. I never got another one. But to this day, that's one of the worst pipe wipeouts I've ever had, and one of the biggest waves I've ever caught at pipe, other than this wave. And yeah.
So talk through this day then.
Was
real
this the
quick.
same winner?
No.
No, this
a-
is fast forward 14 years trying to get a wave like this. And finally, I got this giant gun made. Harry Bryant let me borrow this Keo gun the year before, and I was like, all right, this is what I need. Like, I'm a longboarder. Just accept it. You need a big gun. This is like your calling. This is what you got to do. So I got this big 8.5 made. And even that year, there was a couple good days at pipe that I didn't even paddle out, because I was just like, it's too crowded. I'm not going to get a wave. I'm going to wait. I'm going to pick my moment, because it's easy to get hurt out there, where it's like, yeah, if you're going out there for 3 weeks or a month, you want to pick that moment where it's like you're most likely to get a wave, not get hurt, and yeah, you're trying to get the wave of your life, and you're always playing with fire. It's always in the back of your mind that you could die out there. Like, that's the reality of the situation, especially coming from Florida, and especially all the odds against you, because I had some local friends, but Kyoki was like my biggest local friend. He's just the photographer in the channel. It's not like the boys being like, yeah, go, you know. So this particular day it was huge, and I was like, this is the day you get the wave of your life. Like, it's anyone's day out there. There's huge wash throughs, like third and fourth reefing. And I was like, all right. I had a leash as thick as a rope, had this 8.5 gun. I was like, I'm just gonna go out there and try to get a bomb, you know. And
It looked like a sweet roll-in, though. Like a nice, easy roll-in.
Right, so it looks like that. But, right, so
Everybody just said go.
yeah,
It's an easy one.
right.
Yeah.
So that session, I actually got a few waves that felt way bigger than that, but they were out on like literally third reef, not even second reef. Like, it felt like Waimea, but pipeline. It was super, super west, so it was holding this huge swell that it normally wouldn't hold. And when I caught this wave, it was actually starting to get dark. It was like 6:15. It usually gets dark around.
How long had you been out?
I'd been out for like 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
I'd caught 3 waves, 4 waves that were really, really big. Like, probably caught a couple waves that felt like 10 feet bigger than that. But they just didn't barrel on the inside. And I was like, all right, it's getting dark. The swell was starting to drop. I saw one wave blow its guts out on first reef. I was like, if I don't get one now, it's now or never. So I'm like, I'm going to start moving in, try to get on first reef and see if I can get like a little chip in. And so this wave, everyone's like, oh, it's a second reefer, but it actually didn't break till first reef. I got in what people would call like 1.5 reef. So it like started capping at second reef, and it was just blowing so hard offshore that day. It never broke, and it was one of those waves where it's like as big as first reef it can handle. And I saw that thing coming in, and it was just like, it looked like a pyramid. Like, I was like, this is the best wave you've ever seen. Just put your head down and don't stop paddling until you know for sure either you have this wave or you don't. And I just paddled as hard as I could, and I felt the wave just barely let me over the edge. And those chops coming up the wave are like 3 feet, you know, so you see I get to my feet and I kind of stumble a little, and it sets me up to where I kind of fade back just a little bit. I get to the bottom, I pull up high, and that's like, I get this high, tight barrel.
Oh, man.
And the lip almost clips me as I'm tilting down, and it felt like I was like straight up and down right there. And this is right.
It also looked like
so right that point right there is where it hits first reef. So like you'll see the boil in a moment, but I basically pulled in at like almost off the wall or aints, and then it rolled into first reef and it hit that, and that's where the bottom really dropped out. And it got high and tight and almost clipped the nose of the board. Then the bottom dropped out, and I basically like slid into first reef, and the fins caught, and I thought I was gonna die. I was like, the fins aren't gonna catch. I'm gonna slide out. It's gonna be like a foot deep. I'm gonna break my neck. And sure enough, the fins and the channels caught and just took off, and then it was the best wave of my life. And looking at the mountains and the way the sun was setting that day was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen, other than my gorgeous girlfriend over here. But and then also, when it sucked the spit in, everyone was yelling and whistling so loud on the beach, it sucked the sound in, which was the craziest thing, because it sounded like if you were like right next to me yelling,
Yeah.
it was like I could hear the sounds flying by me as I was going, and then I was like, don't claim in. When I kicked out, everyone just erupted, and that's when I was like,
gotta
fuck
claim
it.
that thing.
I looked
You
up to the
gotta
sky.
claim that.
It felt like an eternity, and then yeah, that was it.
That's awesome.
Remarkable.
Yeah.
There's another wave that people haven't seen nearly as much. I think it was the next day.
Yeah.
This is like David Lee and I actively Google searching, mostly David Lee, facts during mostly people's ages during the podcast.
Was this the next day?
Yeah, so this was the next day, and I was very hungover because we celebrated a lot that night. But it was still pumping, and I was like, I still have something to prove, right? Everyone's like, that was a jinx, you know, you got lucky. So I was like, all right, I got to go get another bomb and back it up. And it was funny. So full circle moment, I'll probably get my ass kicked for even telling this story.
That's what this podcast is for.
Right. So my buddy's on the beach getting ready to paddle out. I'm paddling into this wave, dropping in, and he's standing next to Kalani Chapman. And he goes, not this fucking guy again.
Oh, Kalani will like that story.
And I ended up eating shit at the end, but it was teeing up to be another crazy wave like that one before. So, yeah.
Still a sick one.
Yeah.
Looks like a heavy wipeout, but it's still a sick one.
This right here where it like got all foamy and crazy and the nose almost clipped was very scary. It was so thick and
shallow.
And yeah.
In the interest of time, I told Blue Jay we'd just be doing 90 minutes. So we have 3 minutes left. I have 2 more questions, one for each of you. And then I don't know what time they normally get out of here, but maybe we can hang for 30 minutes and just chat, you know, like off the mics, just everybody socialize. So let's make that the plan. But final 2 questions. Ricky Carroll, if you could order one surfboard from anybody on the planet, what would you get?
Great question, David Scales.
On the planet now?
No, actually,
Anytime.
let's open it up. Dead or alive.
Historical.
What would you get if you can get any board?
Probably a brewer.
Brewer.
Yeah. A big
Balsa
gun?
gun.
A big gun. Balsa gun would be nice. I rode a few of those in Hawaii. And
You did? You wrote a few of those?
not brewers, ones I made.
Oh, I see.
Balsa guns.
I heard about a board that you spent 150 hours building.
Yes. That was at the Surf Expo. One year they had the reef sponsored a board build-off competition where they asked 10 guys to just build a crazy board, and they were going to have an auction.
Was it a marathon contest? Was it
No.
whoever builds the board the longest?
No,
wins?
it was basically just build whatever you want, and then they were going to have an auction at the end. So I built this balsa board, and I did this hand carving stuff in it. It was kind of crazy. That's not the board I spent 150 hours, but I won the first contest, and they were going to do it the next year.
Okay.
And I said, now I have to outdo myself. So that board that I spent 150 hours on hangs in my house because what had happened was Reef had pulled out right before Surf Expo and said, we're not sponsoring the competition because they gave away money and because of somebody won the world title that year and they promised him $1 million bonus.
Oh, it was stinking.
McFanning,
Nick Fanning.
probably?
Yep.
Nick.
So Reef pulled out of the competition, but then Surf Expo was like, we still want everybody to bring their boards. I started working on that board on Thanksgiving Day, and I worked on it till the day before the expo.
Has anybody surfed that board?
No. So I made an 11-foot balsa gun.
Would you let Justin Quintal surf
Pipe.
that board? At pipe?
Maybe.
And I chambered it. I put channels down where it would be a triple stringer, and I inlaid bamboo all the way, wraps around the rail, goes around the bottom. And then on the rails, I put like a palm mat that you would make a mat that you would lay on the beach. I vacuum bagged that to the rails, so it's got like palm mat, bamboo, 5 stringers. The logo on it is wood that I cut out of wood
Wow.
and put the logo on the board in wood.
It was one of the most beautiful boards I've ever seen. And that was something like before I even rode for Ricky, I'd go to the Surf Expo and he'd always have these crazy boards.
Right.
Like one year he did one that had clear rails and it
Right.
was fiberglass on the rails, and they actually cut the foam out, and it was just make your imagination run, right? Like whether you're going to use this board for a wave or not, it's something that leaves something to the imagination.
I think you surfing the 150-hour board is worth at least a short film.
yeah,
So Waimea project.
definitely down.
So was it a competition and did you win it?
So the competition got canceled because Reef pulled out. So they did have everybody bring the boards, and people were remembering last year's like, well, I want to bid on your board. I want to bid on your board. I call it the $10,000 board because somebody bid 8, and I was like, I'm not selling it. I'm not selling it. I'm not selling it.
Do we have an 11 in the room?
So it hangs in my house, and I call it the $10,000 board. So that's the price tag on it.
So we will publish this to the world.
You're
Anybody out there that wants the Ricky Carroll 150-hour board, hit him up.
Yeah, it's got to be, though. I feel like 10. Inflation,
The auction market-
economy,
Right,
et
yeah.
cetera,
Yeah,
et cetera.
exactly.
It's got to be 15.
And
at least now.
auctions have actually done really well in recent years, so now
Yes.
the price is higher.
Yes.
Okay. Justin and I had a conversation about his career path. I know he referenced it earlier. He's gone to college. He has a college degree. And the surf career was almost unanticipated, I would say. I just
Right.
want to ask, what did you study in college? Why? And then we're going to end on, what's your advice? Any parents out there who are like tiger parents, their kid's going to be a pro surfer, they think they're going to make $1 million. What is your advice to them, Justin Quintal?
Podcast.
Right. So
Stay in school.
yeah, stay in school. Yeah. So I'd say, when I was, growing up, like I always wanted to be a pro surfer. Everyone wants to be a pro surfer, right? But I went to college, went to UNF here in Jacksonville. I got a dual major in business management and business.
You're a
marketing.
gator?
What was that?
You're a gate? Are you a
Yeah.
gator? Do you go chomp at the field
Yeah,
and
that's
stuff?
what's like Tallahassee games.
No.
Oh, I'm an osprey. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought.
Ospreys are.
Okay.
Yeah, but
So, sorry.
it's okay. But,
No, but the U of F. You said U of F.
yeah, UNF, University of North Florida.
Oh,
You-
UNF.
Not UF. Not
Oh,
UF.
F.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. My bad.
UF. But yeah, I think education is important. I see a lot of kids these days that are like, their parents buy them an e-bike, pull them out of school, throw them into homeschooling, and they think their kid's gonna be the next big thing. And yeah, so I was very fortunate and lucky that things worked out timing-wise with my surf career, and I was able to make a career out of surfing. But I do think that education, getting a job, some kind of work ethic is very important. I go to the pier and surf every day, and I love to see the younger kids ripping, and I hope the best for them. I hope that they, exceed their wildest dreams. But the reality of the situation is that it's very hard in surfing to make a career out of it, and you see it everywhere. But well, I think it would be more valuable for a lot of these kids to actually go through the process of going to, whether it's public school, getting prepared for college, having a plan for the future. I think that's very important. And I can tell you firsthand, like, no matter how well you do in surfing, nothing's promised. Everything can change in an instant. And you see some of the people performing at the highest level that still don't have sponsors. Like, was it Kira Pinkerton's at Trestles, and she doesn't have a main sponsor. She's absolutely ripping, killing it. She doesn't have a main sponsor, and she's on the WSL, on the CT. So a lot of these parents, a lot of these kids, I would just say, you can accomplish it all. You can go to school, you can have a job, and a lot of times that will drive you and give you the tools that you need to actually be successful in life, whether it's surfing or a career or whatever it is. So that's very important.
And when you're driving back home across the country, you may be struck by genius and find a black rose.
Start your own business. Yeah, exactly.
And then, so you're an example of you can have the job and still accomplish all of those goals. But what's next? What's your next phase?
Yeah, so
career?
I'm in a transitional moment in my life for sure. I actually just got an exciting opportunity to work for Off the Hook Yacht Sales, so I'm going to start selling boats. I'll still pursue surfing, but I'm pretty excited about that. And living in Florida, fishing, being on the water and around the water.
The screws are loosening. I see them.
It's kind of nice to have like a little relief from depending on the surf world, and be able to kind of be self-sustainable and do my own thing and partner with a great group of people. So I'm excited about it.
Continue doing both things.
Right.
Pursuing the surfing and doing your...
Right. Maybe one day I'll own a sick boat and be able to take my boys fishing. Exactly. So that's the goal. That's the real goal.
Catch a new record setter.
Yeah, exactly.
Again, can't thank you guys enough. I'm honored. I mean, weekly I'm interviewing people who I've looked up to for a long period of time. So I'm honored to be able to do the work. But it's even cooler to be able to come out into the community and be accepted into the friend group that already exists. So thank you all for hosting us. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much. It literally,
Thank you guys for coming.
This all feels like this is, surfing.
And I know, thrilled to be able to share the story with a broader audience. So, and also shout out, thank you to the Blue Jay listening room too. Everybody in Jacksonville, 6 nights a week, music. All right, we'll turn up the music and have some drinks and socialize a little bit. All right, thanks guys.
Thank you all.
Surf Splendor.